Once every generation, there comes an event that alters how we perceive our world. It changes our expectations of what is possible. This is not really one of those events. But hey, Toxic Radio has a brand new studio, and that fucking rocks. So join us in celebrating our excellent new home. Toxic Radio. Awesomer than ever before. What? That is so a word. Planning your Saturday night can be a bit of a bitch. How about we make rock, not war? Load up Toxic Radio every Saturday night for the heavy metal happy hour with the one and only Fishman.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
There will be interviews, ticket giveaways, a little bit of banter with Toxic Mike, and of course great metal from the 80s all the way through today. Starts at 7 p.m., runs until Fish says it's over.
Get out.
Catch it only on Toxic Radio. Don't play it safe. Play it toxic.
Enjoying all that Toxic Radio has to offer? Well, make sure you like and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Be the first to find out about ticket giveaways, amazing guests, awesome contests, and Toxic Radio events. Just search Toxic Radio Live, all one word, and press that little button. Every time you do, someone here at Toxic Radio will get their wings. Yay! Well, not really. Aww. But we will get a warm, fuzzy feeling in our tummies. But then again, that just might be the beer. Anyway, like and follow us, and we will see you out there on the interwebs.
Hungry for Hope Nation. This is your host, Reckless Donnie Hart. We are live in the Toxic Radio studio, the new one you heard all about, and I am joined by my co-host, Big Time Tim Coaches. And we are joined by my other co-host, our sports and gambling expert, Yanni the Greek. Yanni.
How's it going, Donnie? Nice to be back on this side of the table after manning the middle there for a while.
Yanni, for anybody who didn't listen last week, shame on you, but Yanni the Greek, he actually took over as our main host last week, and we pulled the curtain back. Yanni asked me and Tim some questions, personal, our history, and we really told the world what Hungry for Hope's about, what we've done, what we're going to do. How was that, Yanni? How did you feel interviewing us?
It was great. It was a fun interview for me. Again, I know most of you guys, we've talked a bunch off the air, but it was interesting to run you through our community spotlight questions that we have asked some other guests and kind of get your guys' answer on them. It was very enlightening for me, and of course we continued that conversation when we opened up the AT&T store right here in Clementon, New Jersey on Saturday.
Yeah, we were down there on 1212 Blackwood Clementon Road in Clementon, New Jersey. That was pretty cool. We did that grand opening and everything. That was pretty fun.
It was nice being out there with the people, meeting and greeting, shaking some hands, getting rained on, but it's all right.
Donnie screaming at people.
Donnie screaming at people. I mean, that just comes with the territory.
But and first off, we want to give a big shout out to all the mothers. Mother's Day was this weekend. Big shout out to all of our mothers, our listeners who are mothers, and all them people. Big shout out. But today, we don't have a guest. We've been doing our community spotlight, like Yanni has mentioned. We took a break. We had El Wingador actually stop in last week. How was that seeing him again, Jan?
He's always a good time, Wingador, and he's always got really good insight. He's just you put a mic in front of him, you get a lot of wisdom coming out of the man. So that was a nice little surprise that you guys laid on us.
But Hungry for Hope, our whole show's about me and Tim have overcome obstacles to get where we are. Lot of things in our life that knocked us down pretty good. And one of them things we talked about, we had a show a couple weeks ago with Janine Kirby, and we talked about I'm a survivor of traumatic brain injury, got in a bad car accident, was in ICU, life support, all that good stuff, and how that affected my life and led to a lot of dark times and led to other demons, all because of that. And the big thing Janine said when she was on the show with Mind Your Brain Foundation, she does a lot of work for, is the athletes, man. These athletes, pro wrestlers, football players who suffer these injuries. And, yesterday, one of them athletes died. Colt Brennan, former Hawaii quarterback, one of the all-time great college quarterbacks during my time. He lost to like Tim Tebow and I think Darren McFadden in the Heisman Trophy, but he was legit, man. He took that team 12-0. You're a fan of him, Jan?
Yeah, he was a great college player. I mean, you could count on Hawaii during those years to put up 4,000 plus offensive yards and just light up the scoreboard. He really turned that into becoming a draft pick of the Washington Redskins in the 6th round in 2008. Bouncing around the league, it's just doing the backup quarterback life, just trying to find a spot. Just that's how a lot of these college quarterbacks end up. That they have that great glory in college, and then they just bounce around the league trying to build up their skills, and if they're ever called on, to step in there and succeed.
Yeah, I remember it. I was a huge fan of him in college. I remember he came in the NFL. He got drafted by the Redskins. He had a couple injuries, but around that 2010 time, I would have thought that was his year. He was getting healthy from the injuries, and I never heard about him again. And unfortunately, I never looked. I just figured he was just a guy who couldn't make it athletically. Yeah. I figured even though he was such a talented quarterback, and little did I know after hearing about his passing, he was in a car accident in 2010, right around the time he fell off the radar. He was real bad, almost died. He was out in Hawaii. Him and his girlfriend got in a horrible car accident, and he suffered a traumatic brain injury. And like clockwork, after that, his life went from 12-0 quarterback, Heisman Trophy candidate, NFL draft pick, and all that stuff went away. And he became he battled addiction, mental health, many arrests, and it was all none of this stuff happened in his life until this injury, this freak accident. And I just thought that was pretty wild to see somebody I can relate personally. So many other people. We mentioned Junior Seau. Who else we mentioned, Yanni?
There's always Aaron Hernandez, who we got into with
Alex
right here with Alex Silvestro on the show. We got a little insight into that. But it's not just football players. It's a ton of athletes. With you guys, obviously Chris Benoit, one of the more grisly situations that arose from that kind of thing. It's really messed up, and there's really no way to fix it. The best you can do is understand that something is going wrong, and you're not thinking. I mean, a little bit, Donnie. Not to pat you on the back because I'll never hear the end of it, but realizing something's wrong and just trying to get that help that you need.
The hardest part you mentioned, Yanni, is not knowing. When I got in my accident, I was in ICU. I was fighting for my life. I should have survived. I was in Cooper. And you know what they said after I started healing? The doctor said, it's a miracle. You're going to make a full recovery. He fucking lied, Yanni. He lied. They say full recovery. Yeah. They said the same thing. When you read the article about Colt Brennan, they said full recovery. What I battled for years from that's not a full recovery. The worst was yet to come. I broke almost 20 bones, and that was the easy part. The years after, like Tim, you've been around in recovery, addiction, you fought it. Have you noticed, I feel like a lot of these people who suffer these injuries end up going after other demons because of it. It messes up the brain. Have you seen a lot of people with traumatic injuries go to addiction?
Yeah, I mean, you see it around all the time. You see it, pro athletes do it all the time. You see just regular people that get in a tough accident, and then they started maybe taking Percocet or something else to ease the pain, and then it kind of just balloons up from there into the worst possible things, putting you into the worst possible scenario.
Yeah, like even my trouble, man. First off, the number one thing, I take full responsibility for anything I ever did in my time. Any drugs, anything, even if it was caused by mental health breakdown or anything. At the end of the day, I take full responsibility. But it is intriguing to see why. You know, I always ask myself why. I took full responsibility, but I just figured I did this stuff because I was just a flawed human being. I was just no good, I figured. And it's good now that through foundations like Mind Your Brain, people like Janine Kirby and other professionals I had gone, that's the backbone of my comeback, I feel. Knowing why, like who says it? The queen of controversy, Destiny Campanella. What did she say, Yanni? Her one great quote?
It's not why the addiction, it's why the pain.
Why the pain, exactly. Once you can figure out why you do this, you know, I want to know why, because by finding that out, you can find the solution. Am I right, Tim? If you find out why somebody's doing something?
Yeah, I mean, you got to dig down deep and see the root cause of anything. There's always a root cause when it comes down to it. There's surface problems. You'll see that's the addiction, that's being broke, that's being homeless. But there's that root cause underneath those surface problems. That's the main issue you have to attack. That's what's causing, you know, the most pain, to bring all those surface issues to life.
Like, I look at a guy who was a NFL draft pick, went undefeated in college, went to the bowl game, was one of the greatest college quarterbacks. This guy was a good-looking, all-American California kid. He had everything, the girls, he had some money. And then to see his life go so down the track, you know, it just, I sit here and I say, how? Why? And you look at things like a traumatic brain injury that led to addiction, mental health. He was quoted, man. If you go on his Instagram recently this year, he even said, like, hey, look, man, I fought demons. I had this brain injury and it led to addiction. And I didn't know what to do. And I'm trying to fight it. The dude was he was aware of it. But even when you're aware, you know, God bless, I'm in the situation I'm in, and Tim, but these are some fights that people just can't fight, man. You can get them all the help, all the support. And unfortunately, these demons, they're no joke. And we've seen, Yanni brought up Chris Benoit. You're a big wrestling fan, Tim. You think, you know, people look at him and they bash him. Chris Benoit killed his whole family, killed himself. But you look back at the history of him, and everybody says he was a great guy. What do you think, Tim? Do you think Benoit? What's your feelings on Chris Benoit?
I mean, I'm not going to say he's a great guy. He murdered his whole family ruthlessly. But it comes to an extent, like maybe brain injuries caused it, maybe steroids caused it. But he was thinking, I don't know if he was even thinking until the time of the murder, that murder was going to happen. You got to think, watching Dark Side of the Ring on Vice TV, I forget what wrestler it was. Maybe, for some reason I keep thinking Bob Holly, but it could have been somebody else. He was trying to get that wrestler to come over, and the guy's like, nah, you know, I'll see you later. I'm not going to come over this time. And then a couple hours later, he ruthlessly, brutally murders his entire family.
It just goes to show you, when you leave somebody who's dealing with that alone, you don't know what, you know, could come of it.
Right? Was he reaching out for help? Did he want to get stopped from
absolutely
doing it? Or did he not even know he was going to do that, and it just a switch flipped? That's it.
That's what the dangerous part is about it, because, you know, I don't think you can defeat mental illness, right? I think you fight it, and I think you fight it, you know, your whole life, and maybe your whole life is a long, good, healthy human's life, and maybe, you know, it ends up like Colt did. So we're very sorry for the family and everything like that. It's something tragic. It's not what we would like to open the show with, but we need to draw awareness to stuff like this. I mean,
but wasn't Ryan Leaf somewhat similar until?
A little bit, yeah. He didn't.
Ryan Leaf was another number 2 overall quarterback.
All Mr. Everything in college, and
the biggest bust in NFL history,
and then turns into the biggest bust in NFL history.
Maurice Claret.
And it's really easy to, you know, make fun of Ryan Leaf for being such bad, but behind the scenes, he was dealing with all kinds of stuff, you know, all kinds of issues that you know, led to him washing out of the league the way he did.
Yeah, Tim brought up Maurice Claret, but you know, I don't want anybody to think me personally. I'm not giving these people an excuse. These people, some of them we're talking about, are bad people. Aaron Hernandez, Chris Benoit, they did bad things. Things that we absolutely don't promote or nothing. But, I could sit here and bash them. We can bash freaking people all day. It doesn't get us anywhere. I want to look at these people and think, why, man? Because how can we help other people, other athletes, man? This is a pandemic. Yeah. These professional athletes, Junior Seau, man, you're not going to find a better human being, or you weren't going to find another better human being, because he's dead. He's dead. All the money, all the girls, family, one of the greatest careers. He had it all. And where's he at, Yanni? Dead.
Unfortunately, he's in the ground.
He's in the ground,
yeah. I mean, that's a shame. I mean, Colt Brennan, he was the big man on campus at Hawaii. You imagine that? That's probably that guy. Those 4 years in college had to be the life. You're in paradise. You're the big time football player. You're the quarterback. You're breaking records. I mean, this guy lived a happy life up until one day when something went wrong, and look how it turns out.
Yeah, dude, he went to Hawaii. He put them on the map. Man, I want to read. This is a post he made recently this year on his Instagram. He said, I recently went to a facility. They put him under a truth serum, and they asked me questions about my life. This is Colt Brennan. He said, I cried pretty hard when they asked me why I wasn't happy. And then I reread what I said. I haven't been happy since my car accident. And, but he says, I'm getting help. I am destined for redemption. I am destined to be happy. Any fool can be happy, but only a man with heart can make beauty out of stuff that makes you weep. On my journey, one love, redemption. Colt Brennan. This is a guy who he wanted to live, right?
Mm-hmm. That doesn't sound like somebody who's given up.
It's just crazy. And he goes on, man. He says he's been through so much in life. He said, I captured every dream I ever had as a child. I was drafted into the NFL. Then he had injuries, two knee surgeries, 2 hip surgeries. And then he said he reached his 3rd year in the NFL, only 3rd year. And he found himself in a coma. He was a passenger in an accident. He said from that he went on to battle drug addiction, alcohol abuse. He developed blood clots from the accident. He spent 9 months in the hospital. And, but he said, I'm born to fight. This is a guy, he said it over and over. He said, I'm born to fight. How can we help somebody with a fight like this? Anybody, not even just that, anybody who, some people say the same thing, the addiction. He was battling addiction too, but how can we help?
There's the quote in there from his father too, about how he was doing well. He was recovering. He was staying away from stuff, and so often as we hear these things, he just relapsed and just got a bad batch or whatever it was that he was doing, and that's what looks like led to his death.
Yeah, that's the thing. He had family that loved him, that supported him. He had extended family. They were all. That's the one thing that I kept on noticing when I really dug in deeper to this case. Colt Brennan had a family who would do anything to help him. He sought help, but just for whatever reason, man, there's just whatever reason he couldn't fight it. It's tragic, definitely tragic. Like Jill just said on one of our listeners. That's what Hungry for Hope. That's kind of what our nonprofit that we are currently opening. We got the space. We're just gonna have a building there where we can have people like that, man. Because sometimes they need other people who've been through that. We're gonna have kind of a safe space for them to come, and we can get them whatever professional help. We'll have computers and people making job resumes. They need that. We'll have people who can get them addiction services, inpatient, outpatient. We'll have counselors, mentors, anybody to help these people. Because obviously, some of the stuff we need more help. The addiction they go through. Tim, you're very familiar with addiction. The services are out there, right, Tim?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that we were just talking about, right, and it kind of hit me, and I was wondering, do you think the being taken away from football affects these guys? Because you kind of see we saw it come out of Antonio Brown, right? He came back to the league, but when he was gone, he went like a complete fucking psychopath. Johnny Manziel.
There's definitely something to be said about just that routine of going and you have your, release, whatever it may be, whether it's football or whatever hobby it is that people do that keeps their mind off of what's going on, inside.
Right, because you're hearing about Antonio Brown every other day, and then he signs and starts playing again and nothing.
And then he's just, he's not fine. He's, he's got some stuff on the legal side that he's dealing with, but no, he was able to keep it together and be a professional and help that team win a Super Bowl. So you're absolutely right.
That's a great point, Tim. I've heard this a lot. Tim, you brought up, maybe not having football. And that's one thing in my mind, I think you've really hit that nail on the head, Tim. Colt Brennan, yeah, he was drafted in the NFL, but let's not blow this guy up. He was a 6th-round pick. He was a backup quarterback. I personally thought right opportunity, he could have been a starter, but he wasn't projected as a star in the NFL. But in college, Johnny, you followed college. He was one of the best of my time, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Stats were pretty good, weren't they?
He just rolled up huge numbers. They weren't faking. I mean, it's not like he was dealing with talent at Alabama. He was just pulling guys together and making it happen in a very fun offense. One of the worst, not worst, but not a good conference. But, those were also other college-level athletes that he was beating up pretty bad. Donnie, I got a little stat here from Janine Kirby, our resident brain expert. In 2020, most positive cases of CTE in football player brains were under 34 years old. Under 34 years old, Donnie. 1 in 5 of those brains were high school players. So, I mean, this is so it's not just professional athletes who've been playing forever. I mean, these are young kids, young, healthy athletes that are dealing with this,
That's a crazy stat, Janine. Thank you for that.
That's why she's the best.
Yeah, she's awesome, man. The Mind Your Brain Foundation's awesome. But yeah, definitely, like Tim brought up, that this Colt Brennan, he was the man, and he was in Hawaii, man. I mean, that's where my brother always wanted to play, because he said he went to college at Arizona State, but he always dreamt of playing football in Hawaii, because he's like, what was better? Yeah. And they weren't good back then, but he's like, what would be better than playing,
in paradise.
In paradise. Yeah. But I definitely think Tim has a great point where Colt Brennan went from being this big shot, this guy who he came from like nowhere. He was I think he went to Colorado or something. He got kicked out of school, then he went to junior college.
He played at Mater Dei in high school, which puts out a lot of pros. So he was around other like really good athletes, but
Absolutely.
He didn't get.
But he came from like a junior college when he finally made it to.
He didn't get the big time recruiting that some of his teammates probably did.
And then he got in the limelight, and then he went to the NFL, and he had these injuries, and he was just a guy on the bench, injured. The injuries definitely have a lot to do with it. And he was already battling, it was a hard fight for him. And then once he got in that car accident, that put his career, I don't think he could walk. He had the brain injury.
Yeah, but you think he could have been holding on to help? Like, even on the bench, you still have that opportunity that somebody's going to go down, you're going to get on the field.
Yeah, you're fighting, you're living the life. I mean, like I said, a lot of quarterbacks are more quarterbacks anyway are like Colt Brennan than are like, Peyton Manning. Right, more quarterbacks are fighting, trying to get better all day long. And maybe don't even hit their stride until they're in their 30s. I mean, let's talk about Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? I mean, he's had a great late career after being an average to below average player for most of his career. That's the life of a quarterback. So you don't ever really give that up when you're playing that position.
But then that accident ripped that hope away from him.
Exactly.
Absolutely, that's the point, Tim. I think you put right there. That accident, any hope he had left. That ripped him away. That's why having a support system, he had it. But, his sister, his dad, they might have loved him and wanted to help, but they just didn't know what to do. This traumatic brain injury and addiction, man, it's tough. That's why you definitely do need professional help. I know it's hard. I'm somebody who personally turned it down so many times, especially the male athlete. Let's just be honest. Alpha males, they just think it's a weakness, I guess you could say, that you can't admit that you need help. I know that was always my problem. I thought I was this big pro wrestler, this big bodybuilder guy, and I was showing weakness if I said, hey, when my brother died, and it was a bunch of different things that led to mine, but it all started with my traumatic brain injury and then my brother's death, and you mix in addiction, and it was just a perfect storm. And, I didn't have it in me to admit I needed help. And that's the big thing about Hungry for Hope nonprofit. We're here for people. Maybe they don't want to go to a doctor's office, but maybe they can come to us when we have our office open. Maybe they can sit down with somebody like me, Tim, or just Yanni too, man.
I'll listen.
Yeah, and talk. And I feel like if somebody was there, if there was a Hungry for Hope nonprofit podcast, whatever, when I really needed help, and I saw somebody who was, say, an athlete, and he suffered a traumatic brain injury or lost his brother, and he was fighting addiction, he overcame it, and he opened up and talked to me, I think that's the door I would have walked in. Now, the doctors and professionals, that was the door I just couldn't find myself to walk in. I came so close, but I feel like I would have talked to somebody like me, and then you got to get them in the door. That's half the battle. That is the battle, getting them in that door. Once you get them in the door, we're not professionals, but we can get them professionals. We can get them help. There's tons of help out there, right? Yeah, we were talking about it.
We all have demons, and they come in different shapes and sizes. And that brings me to a question I want to ask the two of you. What does demons mean to you guys? I mean, what do demons mean? When we talk about our demons, how do you guys kind of
Sleep paralysis.
Actual demons is the way you're going. You see them in the corner of the room and everything like that.
Nothing's like laying in bed, not being able to move, seeing demons float around.
Yeah, that's great.
Great time.
Good time.
Demons for me on, a lot of people, I actively have them on my mind. I try to remind myself, no matter how good things are going, how happy I am, I always try to put my past demons in perspective. I know some people say move on I move on, but I still keep them in perspective, man. I carry around my jail ID card with my mugshot on it, and I daily remind myself that's my demon, what my demons led to, incarceration, away from my family, years of my life. I daily remind myself, these are the demons. If I slip up, if I get off track for one day, because they're waiting for you, they're waiting. Your demons are doing push-ups right now. They're waiting for you to mess up. Whatever your demons are, if you're fighting mental health, addiction, they're waiting, man. They want you. They want you to fail, and they want to grab you. One slip up, man. One slip up. Even Colt Brennan, man, they said he was in rehab for 5 months. He was getting his life back together. I read his Instagram post to you guys. All it takes is that one slip, that one. You get off guard one time. You forget about where you came from and where you're going, and that's all it takes, man. So demons to me are all the time. They're always on my head. But with the right support, right thing, I think anybody can beat your demons. But it's not one time. You don't just knock them out and it's over. They're not ringing the bell. That'd be awesome if you could just shoot them in the head and it's over. But it's not. It's something we constantly have to go back to, man. And I feel like people's demons, they come from deeper issues, man. A lot of my demons I struggled with, it was because of a deeper issue, man. It was mental health, even addiction, man. It was one of the biggest demon people fight. People who fight addiction, that's the demon, but I feel like it comes from bigger stuff. It comes from trauma. We had Michael Bell on the show, Michael Allen Bell, man. He was amazing. He talks about what adverse reactions or whatever. He really went into the aces. Got a call. Hey, Hungry for Hope Nation, we got a call. You there?
Hey, guys.
Hey, what's up? Who's this?
It's Janine Kirby.
Ah, Kirby.
What's up, Kirby?
Hey, guys. Thank you all so much for talking about the silent epidemic, man. It really is. It was really sad story about Colt, for sure.
Definitely. Well, it wouldn't be right to talk about this stuff without you here. So.
Oh, thank you so much. And, yeah, it's something that I try to be very vocal about. And unfortunately, I wasn't vocal about it until it happened to me, you know? And I realized how hard it is, and I'm not I was a semi-pro athlete, but nothing like these gentlemen have to deal with. You know, your entire core being is based on how you perform, how strong you are, how fast you are, how in control of your body you are. And then a traumatic experience takes away the whole thing that's operating your body. And it's debilitating.
Yeah,
and that's just emotionally.
Yeah, like you said, Janine, you said it's not a muscle. Your brain's not a muscle. You said like you break your leg.
Mm-hmm.
You break your leg. You go to a doctor, specializes in that. He fixes it. He puts a cast on, and you'll be good in like 6 months. You can't you can't just go to the doctor and get your brain fixed and be good in 6 months. Am I right?
Absolutely, yes, and it's tragic too because of the lack of knowledge about really how bad it is. I mean, thank God that we have a lot of these athletes and their families donating their brains. I mean, we know a lot more today than we did, 50 years ago. But also, we have a lack of empathy, I guess, I'm not saying that Colt and others didn't have support from their family and friends, but empathy just in the general knowledge of, wow, well, you look normal to me. If I had a dime for every time I heard that, I'd be rich. We could open up 5 more Hungry for Hope places.
Yeah, you're so right when you say, like, looking from the outside. And, before I really knew my problems, I probably would have been, I'll admit, I might have had the same thought. Some of these people, they look at somebody like, say, a Colt Brennan or a professional athlete, and they're like, this person was given, they were given all this money, millions of dollars, and they blew it. They're stupid. Why would they do drugs? They picked drugs or whatever they picked over this, or they suicide. How could they do that to their family? And all I'm thinking is, like, how could this person with this God-given talent to make millions of dollars to be so good, and they're not happy? I'm just thinking in my head, like, how fucked up must their head be, and why is it? That's not normal.
I mean, think about Isaiah Wilson, recently of the Tennessee Titans and Miami Dolphins. He's going through something right now. We know it. Everybody knows it. Everybody who's worked with him knows it. He doesn't know it. He just kind of thinks that, I signed my first round contract. I'm going to go. I'm going to party. I'm going to live my life.
Tell us more about him, Yanni.
So what happened with Isaiah Wilson? He was a first round pick of the Tennessee Titans. I guess he got out of shape during his first year, was not really paying attention, wasn't coming to meetings, was skipping practices, that kind of thing. Eventually, after his rookie year, was traded to the Miami Dolphins, where he was on the Dolphins for about a week. Hadn't played a game, hadn't practiced with the team, but he was such a head case that they decided to move on. We're not even going to try to fix this guy because he's so deeply flawed that we have to get him off the team. And right now, Isaiah Wilson, the first-round pick just 2 years ago, is out on the street. You know what I mean? And all accounts are that this guy has some kind of major mental issue that everybody else has noticed except him. And he just is refusing help and just kind of shunned the team. And now, unfortunately, we're probably waiting to hear a headline from him, too.
Yeah, it's hard to, even when I knew I had some kind of problem, I didn't know what it was. I didn't have people like Janine Kirby. I think she got cut off the phone. Janine, feel free to call back in. I don't know
Mike,
what happened,
pay your phone bill, please.
That was awesome. You bring so much perspective. But people like you, even the conference I sat in that you invited me to, I learned so much. But, the hardest part is realizing you have a problem. I tell people all the time, I knew something was wrong. I remember I had countless calls where I was calling people. I was in tears. I was screaming. I said, something's wrong. I can't stop it. I don't know what it is. And it's going to end bad. But, if you don't know what it is or how to, what do you do? I was just sitting back and praying, hopefully it doesn't take my life. And that's all we can do with people like this. Janine said, it's a silent killer. That's pretty crazy. What do you think all about this, big time Tim Kudges?
I don't know. I keep trying to tie it into where I can kind of gain perspective on it with the addiction part, but the head trauma, I got punched in the face a couple times, punched in the head a couple times, but
That was just this morning.
Yeah.
But like we were talking about earlier, I mean, the head trauma is the root cause. Then there's the shit that happens after it. There's the waiting for the headline of Isaiah Wilson.
To be clear, I hope not. I really hope the kid gets it together. Maybe even ends up back on the field. But first things first, he's got to get his head right.
Yeah, I mean, to be cut after being traded in a week, like, you have to see some tremendous stuff. And does he have like a bunch of yes people in his corner, or do people actually give a shit?
We don't, kind of the stuff that you get out of the Dolphins was that they wanted to help him and he refused to help.
Because that money's going to run out
Exactly.
real quick.
Yeah, that's what is concerning. I mean, he would just rather be out partying, doing whatever it is that he's doing, than doing his job. And and this is a first round pick. How much rope do these first round picks get? Right? We've seen guys get chances for no reason, and 2 teams now have said, "Whoa, we don't want to touch this guy." It speaks volumes. I know we don't know anything about the guy. We don't know who he is and everything, but how teams act really tells you what they think about a player.
Yeah, absolutely. You say you're just sitting back and waiting, man. I can relate to that. They're just, even me, it was just like a matter of time when I was going through my struggles after my brother died in 2014 2015. It was just a matter of time, man. I was a train heading for a collision, man. I was out of control. I didn't know what was going on. My brain wasn't functioning right, man. I just, through the traumatic brain injury, the loss of my brother, mixing addiction, it was just a big ball of things that led to my downfall. And I always say, the greatest thing ever happened to me was being arrested. It sounds crazy, but I don't get arrested, I'd probably die. I couldn't beat this, just like Colt Brennan. It was a fight. I kind of, knew. Like, Tim, you brought up, you and Tony Hoffman, you brought up, is like, Tony Hoffman said, he knew he couldn't. He had came to the point, just like you had, Tim, like, hey, I can't beat this addiction. I can't beat these demons. You were just waiting for death. Am I right, Tim?
Right, and I always talk about it now. Like, at that point, I was living to die. Now I'm dying to live. It's a complete reverse in I'm trying to think of the word. I don't always have the big words to pull out of the pocket. But reversing trajectory in my life, right? So I started off, not giving a shit, not caring if I lived or died. Now I'm grasping every second of it. I have built a nice life, and I will do whatever possible not to lose that again, or not to lose that at all.
Jill says, Jill, thank you so much for tuning in. She said one of the things she really enjoys about our show is that we find the good in people, no matter their circumstances. Well, we do this because me and Tim have been in them circumstances where people would look at us and say, they must be bad people.
Janine's back.
They must not be good. Well, Janine, we'll put her on in 1 second.
Except snitches.
We've had people...
Except snitches.
Yeah, except snitches. And we were going through our demons, and I knew deep down I was a good person. Tim was a good person. And we were given that opportunity, man. Somehow, against all odds, we came out of that rock bottom. And now we're helping people. So I know if me and Tim can do with these people that some people might look at and say are bad people, maybe we can fix them.
And that's how I came up with that whole ATG philosophy, being ATG, because it's from starting at that rock bottom and that scrape, that fight to turn it around and get to the top. Even if I'm not at somebody else's proverbial top, like rich, famous, I'm at my top. I live the perfect life.
All-time great. And speaking of all-time great, one of the all-time great guests we had is back on. Kirby is live.
Thank you, gentlemen. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I think it was Mike's
brain
fault,
was
Toxic
attacked.
Mike or something. I don't know. He said
He had to add some more coins to the app.
Janine, when in doubt, just blame Mike.
he said like, did you eat Slim Jims while you were here and did I ask or something? I don't know. He seemed upset. I think he kicked you off. I ate the Slim Jims, Mike.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike. I didn't mean to drink your whole juice, your whole bottle of juice.
Janine, thanks for coming back. We love having you on
Thank
because
you.
You're, you lived through this traumatic brain injury. You've seen firsthand what it does, and you have studied a lot of athletes. That's the one thing. When Colt Brennan passed, now my mind thinks so different. Before I would have just flipped through, it would have been another story. I'd be like, oh, athlete who had it all and blew it. What a dummy. But now I look, and it really touches home.
Yeah, you're personally affected. You can empathize. It's empathy that's the biggest thing, man.
Like, you're a person who has a whole list of athletes and stuff. I remember you're telling us all these athletes and professional wrestlers, and Colt Brennan, you add him to the list. Am I right?
Yes, he is on my list. Unfortunately, the longer this list gets, it's good in one way. That means more families, and God bless all their families, are donating the brains to be studied. But also there's more positive cases. And Colt was a young man. There have been younger athletes, men and women. A lot of women are now donating their brains. Women's soccer, women's even race, NASCAR racers and Indy racers are donating their brains.
God forbid anything ever happened to me, Janine. I would want nothing more than my brain to be donated, man. I'm a person who, I suffered so much trauma in my brain just from my car accident. I had so many concussions from football, college football, pro wrestling. I
want to be there when they check your brain out to see what the hell's going on in there.
It's the truth, though, man. And
it's hard. It's hard being a survivor of all that and hearing stories of these athletes. I don't know about you, Donnie, but sometimes, I go down that rabbit hole. Like, is this going to happen to me? I was a boxer for a lot of years and had a couple of major head injuries.
Yeah,
like
that definitely was coming.
Do you ever think that way?
That was definitely coming through my head. Like, you're somebody I could relate to, and I hit you up like right away when I was reading this Colt Brennan thing. And there is a little fear, but I feel like I have such a support system and professional help. I just hope, but sometimes you might not be able to get help, and I just hope, I can't let that weigh me down. But the one thing I did notice, Janine, all these, I was a huge Colt Brennan fan. Yanni was a big Colt Brennan fan. Tim was a huge Colt Brennan fan. No, I don't know about that, but this was a guy who was a lot of money. He was a big time quarterback. He was a big time name, and I'm somebody who has a traumatic brain injury. We talked about it, and I had absolutely no idea this guy suffered even a traumatic car accident, a brain injury. I don't think anybody knew.
Right.
I looked through it, and it wasn't there. This guy fell off the earth in 2010. The only things you heard about him are his arrests. Nobody said, I was like, where the hell did it, he just got arrested a bunch of times. Why wasn't this more publicized? Why don't you think these cases, I know some of them are getting attention, but I feel like they're getting attention when it's too late.
I agree with you 100%, Donnie. I mean, the last attention made to a brain injury I can recall is Dr. Dre. What was it, last year, had a brain aneurysm, and they talked about him with his brain aneurysm. I'm like, okay, well, maybe this will open up some, take away the stigma of it's still not talked about enough, I think.
You gotta make sure you don't forget about Dre.
Yeah, don't forget about Dre. Tim's making rap things, but
I think it's
on a
it's just not. I still think it's talked about enough.
On a serious note, like you say, you don't think it's talked about enough. And I played some football. I did pro wrestling. I was by no means Tom Brady or Hulk Hogan. I had some names recognized somewhere locally, and I was getting there to my dream. I fell short of that. But you think somebody like me, through Hungry for Hope, through our foundation, if we grow as big as I think we can grow, do you think we can be that voice that I can show? Hey, I'm a survivor. Somebody sees my picture, my head all mangled, and all the trauma and demons I suffered, and that I made it out. And now I'm doing this. Do you think we can be that voice that isn't there?
I absolutely think so. Yes, Donnie, especially because you had all these roles. I mean, they're very hard roles to play. I mean, a professional wrestler to me is one of the hardest jobs as an athlete to do, because you're not just physically working, you're also playing a role. But I mean, it's just very hard work, and a lot of youth, you know, unfortunately, are in sometimes into this, you know, play no matter what mindset. And it's about someone like you who can say, you know what, I survived it because of A, B, and C, and because you're just a very strong man, emotionally and mentally. But, you know the warning signs of concussions, know to take care of your brain. You only get one of these things per lifetime, you know? I mean, I think you can be a really strong voice. Yes, you have amazing contacts, you have an amazing story. And just that the stigma around, oh, I don't want people to think I'm going crazy or that I'm mentally ill, you know, or it's the same with the stigma around addiction, man, you know?
I mean, I think a part of it, too, is, you know, you don't want anyone to feel bad for you either, you know? Okay, you know, you're dealing with what it is, but you don't want to sit there and everyone feel sorry for you. You just want to live like a normal guy, gal, what have you, you know?
As normal as you can, yeah. It definitely is a new normal.
Yeah, you brought up a couple great points. The one you said, you know, it's like, I always bring it up. Like, I didn't want people to know, like, I was never going to, professional wrestling, man, like you said, it was one of the toughest. That's why, where I trained at the Monster Factory, you look at the guys I train with, they're in WWE, some are in UFC. These were professional fighters, mixed martial artists, professional athletes in other sports. I trained with the best of the best. Every night, I was training with guys who were world-class athletes. So they say wrestling's fixed or whatever. You know, what we were doing in there, getting hit in practice and taking hits to the head, it was as real as Ken and I never once, man. I still remember being on this side of the ring, being out cold and waking up to just ringing in my ears, somebody dumping water on me. And I would never, even people said, like, sit out, but I'm never, as the man how I felt, I would never sit out. I didn't have it in me, man. I just didn't have that, man. It's one of my great traits and my worst traits, because I was going to go in that ring, even if I had to crawl in that ring, I was not giving up. I was not quitting. Same thing with football, man. If I got knocked out, I'd put me back in, throw some water on my head, smack me in the face. That's how I was built. And it led to a lot of problems, so many concussions that I played through. So you brought up a great point.
I've done the same thing, and that's what made you such a good athlete and so good at what you did. And that's why these athletes are pro athletes, because they do have that drive. They do have that take all, you know, and it's up to, at that point, the coaches, the medical personnel, you know, to intervene on behalf of them.
Absolutely. Janine, you boxed, you talk about that's how you were. You were that person who when it give it in boxing, one of the hardest but most important roles is that corner man. Because he has, you know, 100%. If a fighter doesn't want to stop a fight and you're the corner man and you're trying to do it, you're a bad person. You're not happy, you're not favorable. Because he's going to be pissed. You can lose your job, but you can also save somebody's life, man. And I feel like we can have that corner man, not just in boxing, Janine, not just in boxing, but in life. You can have somebody in your corner.
That's a great analogy, Johnny.
Yeah, I don't know where it came from, but you know, it was just I was thinking you brought up your boxing, and you know we can have, you know, hungry for hope. Maybe we're that corner man, Yanni.
There you have it.
We're that corner man, Tim.
Let us be your corner man.
Because then you don't have to. You don't have to say, "Hey, you're not throwing the towel." Sometimes you need somebody else, so you can come back and say, "Hey, it wasn't me." You know, hungry for hope threw the towel and got me help and stopped it. You know, I wasn't the weak one. It was my corner man. And whatever.
This happened this past weekend. I don't know if you guys saw or heard about the fight this past weekend, where it was Canelo Alvarez and Billy Joe Saunders, and Billy Joe Saunders' corner stopped the fight. And Billy Joe Saunders was a little upset about it. Here, his face was broken in 4 different places.
Jeez.
He had extensive surgery, and his career's probably over. But you know what? He would have went back into that ring if his corner didn't stop it.
Absolutely. It's amazing. I can relate so much to it. You can, you know, the boxing just goes into life. It's pretty crazy. But we had you. We talked about, you know, but since you're here, we did an interview with you. But like somebody, if they are Colt Brennan, if they're that kind, or they were where I was or where you were, what besides Hunger for Hope? Like what else? If I'm somebody's listening, and they're not the person, but they want to be that corner man. They have somebody who's suffering. They have a Donnie Hart circa 2014 or Janine Kirby when you were going through your demons, battling this traumatic brain injury. What can they do besides they can reach out to Mind Your Brain? Who can they reach out to? How can they get help? How can they save somebody they love's life?
Well, there is the Brain Injury Association of America, which is also in every state. Like there's a Brain Injury Association of Pennsylvania, and they have a resource line, a brain injury resource line. And I can give you that number if you'd like, but the whole country has really stepped up in regards to that, providing these services. And just know that you're not alone and you're not choosing this. You know, a lot of people think, oh, I'm weak, I can't fix myself. Or, you know, they're afraid of the stigma of being labeled.
I'm sorry, we got it up on screen right now, Janine. Thank you. 1-800-444-6443. Continue. I just wanted to put that up. It's on screen. Where we got the number.
Thank you.
But
yeah, just the stigma around it is something we have to take away. I have a friend of mine who he had his accident a year after me. And he was a teacher, an English teacher at Father Judge High School. He went to school a very long time. Was very proud of his smarts, you know. So even he's not an athlete, but his brain injury really affected him emotionally with that he didn't feel smart anymore. And that's something that is hard to cope with. So stuff like the Brain Injury Resource Line gives you people that, like you, Donnie, that understand and have been there and are there to share their hope and help you get some resources.
Yeah, Janine, you know, we brought you in because you're a survivor of that. You do a lot of work with it, but I don't want people to think there's other things, and sometimes other demons are started by that traumatic brain injury, like in my case. But even addiction, if you're fighting suicidal thoughts, man, you know, we can help you. There's people out there. The suicide, man. So many people, I feel like, go to suicide that have suffered from traumatic brain injury, from addiction. We have the suicide hotline. You can call 1-800-273-TALK, TALK, and the suicide prevention lifeline.org. All this stuff goes hand in hand, I feel like.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Janine, while I have you here, what do you? How much do you know about the Isaiah Wilson situation? And I don't know if you've heard anything, and maybe could shed some light on it.
I haven't heard anything necessarily in the last week or two, but I believe he has not just. They're turning him away because of his physical condition,
right.
And he is apparently denying that he has a physical condition, meaning he's overweight and out of shape. And he is just very animus about talking about it or talking about what's wrong with him, which generally is a bad sign. He doesn't have a very strong support group. And kind of reminds me of, what was that? Who was it? Richie Incognito, when he was in trouble for a couple of years. And finally, you know, the league intervened and made him go through treatment.
Right.
So but Isaiah is so much younger than Richie Incognito was when he went through that stuff.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
and that's the trend that I'm seeing.
Yeah,
this is happening in younger people.
It just sounds like he doesn't want the help, and that sucks. And Isaiah, I guess if you're out there listening somehow, reach out to us. Maybe we can help get you back on track. Here, he was a great college player too, playing there on the offensive line. So, damn it, Donnie, the league needs a lot more offensive linemen. So let's get him trained up and back on the field. Huh?
Yeah, we just want anybody to know the whole point of this. Like Jill mentioned, our listener, you're still good people. We know you're good, even if you are battling some kind of demon right now. We understand why. We understand where. Yeah. Like Destiny Campanella says, we understand why the pain, and we can fix it, man. It's not over. You're not out. People like Janine, people like me, people like Tim, man. We have fought, and we have come close to losing a fight, and we were able to make it out, and we fight it every day. But we're doing good, and there's no reason you can't. Just know that. It's never, ever too late. There's always somebody there, and you're loved.
Yeah, Joe. I mean, Joe gives us credit there for finding value in people and everything like that. But I think the reason why we're able to do that is because there is value and there is good in everybody, and they just need that to be put out. It's the stuff around you. It's the bad circumstances and situations that brings out the bad part in people. And I think just our kind of message here, Hungry for Hope, is that good is in everybody, and it just needs to be coaxed out, and that's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, Janine, we want to thank you so much for calling in. You've been wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're always there to answer any questions I have. You're always there for support. You're always there to help us in service. I just want to thank you so much, Janine, and we're gonna get you out of here.
Thank you. I'm honored. I'm honored to be a part of, and that you gentlemen consider me an ally. It's awesome what you guys are doing, and I hope we'll be working together again.
We're all in this together. Have a
Thanks, Janine.
great night, Kirby. We'll see you later.
All right, bye, guys. Yeah, take care. Brush your hair.
How about that? We got an expert calling into the show.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. That's why I feel like I always said sometimes you need people who've been there. I know that's what I listen to sometimes. Not that professionals don't help, but people who have been there. My whole goal, too, is how we were mentioning, you see the good. The whole goal is to make this world a better place, man. A lot of crazy shit's going on, but if we can help the people who are the most vulnerable, people who are in need, people who are down, if we can reach down and pick them back up. Somebody who was where I was, man. I think back to 2015 that my brother had just died. I had lost my dream. That was my dream since I was a little kid to be a professional wrestler, and I was right there, man. I was doing professional wrestling. I was knocking on the door to being a big-time national star. I had a beautiful fiance, great family, and great friends, and just like that, my brother died. And the effects from my traumatic brain injury led to addiction and other stuff out of body. And just like that, I was doing just not who I was. I was in a bad place. I wasn't myself. I was doing bad things. And now I'm here. So like I said, man, anybody is redeemable. Anybody can be fixed as long as you don't touch kids and you're not a snitch and you're going to be responsible. The people like that, there's just,
There's no redemption.
We almost got out of the show, Mike, without talking about
if you're just
kid touchers, man.
A bad person who beats up women or touches kids, or you have any sexual crime, them people cannot be redeemed. I don't want people to get it wrong. They are unredeemable. I wish nothing but horrible things on them people. But the people who didn't do that things and are really fighting something, we're here. We're fighting this together. We can do this. And you're not down. You don't have to be Colt Brennan. Am I right, Tim?
You do not have to be Colt Brennan.
Am I right, Yanni?
You haven't been wrong once on this podcast, Don. Is that what you wanted me to say?
You don't think people are redeemable who touch kids?
I don't want to redeem those people.
All right, I'm
for
just
whatever
making
it's
sure.
worth.
I'm just checking.
They may be, but they ain't gonna get redeemed from me or
Yeah.
anyone on the
Besides
show.
that,
Apparently,
besides that, man, people, it's worth like Jim Hart says. Everybody besides them people, their life's worth taking time to help. And there's people like us, we're willing to help, man. You're never. It's never too late to be what you could have been. It's never too late at a good redemption story. Look at all Wingador we had on last week. Josh Santiago before that. You know, we had like 20 guests in a row that are stories of perseverance. Stories of
America
not
loves a
giving up.
comeback story, Donnie.
Yeah, you're never too late to come back.
You ain't wrong.
Hungry for Hope Nation. We're going to have some great guests coming up that are guests who fought back starting next week. We're going to have a great one, followed by a bunch of other ones, and we have a big name coming on in a couple weeks. Hungry for Hope Nation, we just want to thank you for tuning in. We want to remind you, never give up. Never, ever give up. Donnie Hart, Big Time Tim Kudges, Yanni the Greek, Hungry for Hope Nation, we are out of here.